Good morning, Dom. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm fantastic, Rob. Thanks very much for asking. All very good in the Cavell team. So yeah, going
Good.
well.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining us this morning. So this is Dom Black from Cavell Group, head of research. And this morning we're going to go through some new research that you've released, Dom, around the enterprise. So tell us a little bit more about that, if you don't mind. Just tell us what the purpose of the research was.
Sure. So we're kind of, I would say, historically known for our research reports on the service provider markets. We've been doing them for about 15 years now, looking at how the cloud communication industry in different geographic markets across Europe has been expanding, what the kind of key dynamics there are. Obviously, we spend a lot of time going to service provider events, going to industry conferences, and hearing a lot around new technologies that people are bringing out, around why they're bringing them out there. And we were seeing that, yes, the service providers were selling a lot of cloud voice products. They're selling a lot of other products on top of it. But we really wanted to triangulate that alongside some enterprise research. So we went out, we worked with an external agency to do a survey of 1,800 businesses across Europe and North America, asking them a series of questions around how they believe their workplace is changing, what technologies they're looking at investing in the future, how they're currently communicating both internally and externally, and how their customers are interacting with them. Out of the back of this, we built a report for each individual market. So we've got seven different geographies covered, including Europe, North America, and then going into more detail in specific countries like UK, Germany, France, where the markets are vastly different and the demands are pretty different from country to country.
A pretty big report, Dom. So did you have any kind of preconceived expectations? What did you think you were going to find out?
Yeah, well, I think we've been hearing a lot around collaboration and how people collaborate. And we're really interested to kind of test that, of going, okay, we see Microsoft Teams as being their key kind of product that they're pushing forward as a collaboration product. Cisco have obviously invested a lot of money into their WebEx Teams. We hear a lot around Slack, and see a lot of people looking at changing or bringing collaboration tools into the workplace, and seeing them as almost at the forefront of how people are going to communicate in the future. And I think we see a lot of talk around that. And then when we spoke to service providers, not a huge amount are actually selling these services, or looking at how they can get them into place, or again, working at how they can actually monetize this. So for us, we were kind of interested in testing that, of going, okay, if we're selling collaboration, or trying to sell collaboration, is the market ready for collaboration? And are they actually looking to use these kind of tools going forward? I think prefacing all of this is, how is the workplace changing? And are we giving, as an industry, the right communication tools to our customers so that they can communicate effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. So you went to multiple countries on this, did you say?
Yes, yeah.
So I imagine you were up against some cultural, not just cultural, but country, challenges there, because not every country is the same, I imagine.
Sure. Well, I mean, looking at our research, you can see that some markets are much more mature in the way that they communicate compared to others. You look at the Nordic region, mobile is key up there. So for us, it's definitely interesting looking at things like that. And then you look at the UK market, which has been expanding the cloud voice perspective very fast over the last few years, and the demands that they're bringing in and the different services they're looking for differ greatly. Again, looking at somewhere like Germany, where we are sort of 5 to 6 years behind the curve in terms of cloud communications adoption and cloud adoption in general. So there's definitely some convergences there between the different countries. And I think it's interesting when we talk to some providers of what products should we put where, and how should we sell them. For enterprise, for service providers who are looking to sell to international companies, the need for collaboration is strong, but the way you're going to sell into different countries completely depends. The way people are going to buy from different providers completely depends. We saw in a number of cases that people want to buy from different salespeople. So, for example, I think it's in the UK, there is a perceived trust of kind of industry events, of speaking to people within your own industry to try and get information off there. Whereas in other countries like France, people trust sales suppliers. For example, in Germany, people are quite happy buying direct from vendors, whereas you move to other markets and there's a kind of mistrust of buying direct from the vendor. They want to work with a trusted partner who comes through there and do that. So there's definitely kind of big divergences between the different markets, and I think that's really important for service providers to understand when they're selling into different markets and when they're looking to expand to different markets, that what's been successful in their home market may not be successful in a different market. They need to really understand what their product strategy and go-to-market strategy is going to be when expanding.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned monetization of some of these products, and certainly in the world of SaaS, we see some vendors really kind of driving that price down to almost zero in some cases, especially in the video collaboration market or the video conferencing market. We've got quite a bit of that happening at the moment. So what did you find out around, or what would you say to that, in terms of if you were talking to a service provider around, you should be looking at taking video collaboration on, but there's no money in it. How do you encourage that? Because ultimately the enterprises do want it.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a key interesting point there. That how do you monetize services which other people are giving away for free? I think it's difficult in some cases, and I think you've really got to understand, and it goes back to what we've always talked about, is understanding your customer's requirement and building a package that really fits them, especially as a lot of providers, the majority of providers in the market service the SMB market, so sub 100 users. And yes, you're not going to be able and sort of wanting to offer integrations and offer very complex solutions and building really difficult solutions for them there. But as you go up the market, you're going to have to be more flexible. You're going to have to look at having an API layer so that people can get customization through, so that they can integrate different services into their solutions. And I think that's where the monetary value comes through. In things like video conferencing, for example, we see video conferencing as one of the key services that people are going to adopt over the next 2 years. Looking at our research, for those people who haven't adopted video conferencing, almost 35% of companies are likely to adopt video conferencing over the last 2 years in Europe from our research. And that goes up to close to 40, and then another 10% are very likely going to be adopting video conferencing over the next 2 years. So we're almost seeing 45% in total of businesses who are looking at bringing video conferencing within their organization.
Yes, there's a huge appetite for video.
There's a huge appetite. And I think also on the back end of this, for a service provider, what you're looking to do is deliver a service which your customers are going to use a lot of. And if we take video conferencing again as an example there, those businesses that have adopted video conferencing, over 50% of those expect that their usage is going to increase dramatically over the next couple of years. So I think not only are we bringing in service, but should we be looking at bringing video conferencing services into our portfolio as a service provider to, one, help drive revenue if we can charge for it, or make that proposition that we're selling at the same price more attractive. But if we can make that seamlessly integrate with our voice service and make sure that's all working absolutely fine, we're going to see a much stickier solution, hopefully less churn in the long run for our customers.
Yeah, so ultimately, there's huge appetite out there from the enterprise for video, whether it's meetings, communications. We're going to see more video by the sounds of things, if I'm reading you right. But we need the service providers and we need the vendors to be able to offer those solutions. Do you think there's a gap there that really needs addressing? What's the state of the marketplace?
Well, I think there's, for providers who are selling just a cloud voice service and have been doing that for a number of years, almost just putting a PBX in the cloud, I think there's enough competitors coming into the marketplace now, which will cause long-term pressure on those providers. I think what we've been seeing Microsoft doing with their SME business, I it's business, a 365 business voice. I think that's going to put pressure on some of the smaller providers who are trying to just offer a very simple solution. I think Google coming to this market is going to be put pressure on. And then I think also some of the larger service providers. We all hear how well RingCentral are doing, and they've obviously built a great channel through Avaya now, and seeing how that's going to evolve is going to be really interesting. So I think building a kind of table stakes and simple solution and hoping that's going to be the be all and end all, it's going to be difficult. And I think we go back to the fact that you need to be close to your customers and understand their changing demands and make sure you have the solutions that's going to help serve those in the future. One of the key things that came out of our research when we looked at how the enterprises are changing is that remote working is becoming more and more of a growing trend. We're already seeing, if we look at in the European market, over 75% of businesses currently offer remote working to their employees. Over the next 2 years, we're forecasting that to rise by another 10%, close to 85% of businesses in Europe offering remote working. And when we say remote working, we're not just saying, okay, 1 or 2 people within these businesses work remotely. If we dig down a bit deeper into this, close to 20% of those organizations have over half their workforce working remotely at the moment. So we're starting to see more and more of those organizations make more and more of their roles go remote as well. So if you think from a service provider perspective, what pressure is that going to put on us? You've got to think, okay, how can we enable remote working? How are we going to do that with video conferencing, with collaboration? And I think that's where we need to start looking at as an industry of what is the changing in the enterprise, and how do we get this? How do we get this going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to match those workplace trends, haven't you? I mean, and video and remote working and video go together really like peas and carrots, don't they? You want that fully immersive experience from wherever you are, whether it's from a smartphone, mobile, or from a desk piece of kit with a camera on it. It's to even a meeting room. But it just makes sense, doesn't it? And we're seeing that from a lot of the big vendors. Like Cisco, heavily investing in video, and we just saw even Lenovo join Microsoft's portfolio of endpoints with their own personal video endpoint, which was quite interesting. Very recently. Yeah. So it's looking like a huge appetite for video. Was there anything else in your report that jumped out at you and said that's quite surprising or that's really interesting?
I think one thing which we found interesting when we were looking at the collaboration tools, we were asking those who adopted them, why did you adopt these services? And it's really around that productivity and flexibility piece, or why they actually adopted it. But only around 60 to 70% actually believed that the collaboration tools had delivered on the benefits that they adopted them for. So there's still this gap of we're maybe selling solutions which people aren't actually having we're selling the solutions to people who are expecting these problems to be solved. And I don't think we're actually solving them completely. When we looked at kind of the top improvements that people wanted to make to these collaboration tools, key things that stood out was having one collaboration tool so that you don't need to have multiple tools to do things, making sure that when the tools actually put in place, they actually change the way people worked. I think there's an issue around training there, that making sure that people are using the right tools in the right ways. A lot of people wanted them fully integrated with their telecom solution. I think people who have invested in cloud PBX services and looking to move to a collaboration suite, there's not many collaboration providers out there who are doing an off-the-shelf and enabling people to collaborate with them. If you looked at Slack's ecosystem and said, okay, which voice providers do you recognize within there? There's only 5 or 6 there. You look at how many users Slack has, surely that's a great opportunity for people to go out and build a custom integration into Slack. I think Microsoft are making it difficult for people to bring in their own kind of PBX solution, trying to push people towards the Microsoft one or using direct routing. From what we understand and what we've seen, the Microsoft product isn't as good as what people are really expecting from their cloud voice piece. So I think there's still a long way to go on that. One other key thing that kind of popped up across all of it was better security, as people are worried about the security of these collaboration services going forward. How can they manage those? which I think is a key issue for all vendors here. I think
hot topic, isn't it? Security. I mean,
it is. And it's something we don't talk about much as an industry is security and what the impacts of security is going to be on this. So, yeah.
And reliability is another big one that I imagine, and you can tell me on this one. We seem to have challenges with some of these major vendors, big vendors like Microsoft. Even this week, down for a couple of hours. So if that's 500,000 organizations, that's 20 million daily active users potentially down. It's catastrophic. And so enterprises must be thinking, we've got to choose the right provider here.
100%. I think there's two trends here which I think service providers are hitting up here and need to be conscious of. Is we're starting to bring all these different services into our network. So if you're a CIO or CTO sat there and you're going, right, we're going to invest in video conferencing, we're invest in synchronous chat, and we're going to bring everything into the cloud. With a lot of cloud services, they don't need to be synchronous. Dropbox doesn't need to be immediate. It can have a bit of lag on there. With things like video and calling, you've got to have complete confidence that there's going to be no lag, there's going to be no jitter, there's going to be no packet loss. So I think a lot of people aren't really fully understanding the impact that these are going to have on their networks going forward. We've obviously, over the last few years, been investing heavily in SD-WAN. Our professional services teams have been deploying SD-WAN solutions across Europe for a number of different vendors. And one of the key things they see there is there are more and more applications which are causing strain on organizations. And we need to start bringing in solutions that are going to fix those. We see SD-WAN as one of those key differentiators. My colleague Finbar's been doing a lot of work around this and looking at really how can you optimize your network and make sure that services like video, like voice are going to be optimized and giving 100% uptime if the network is up. So I think providers need to look at this and understand that this isn't something you can just throw at your customers and expect that their network's going to handle it. You've really got to look at bringing in video, bringing in collaboration is going to be a huge stress on the network there. And we need to look at how we can solve them.
Yeah, so that buying process is really important that they take that seriously, from user adoption through to choosing the right vendor, having the right infrastructure locally and the connectivity in place. It's end to end, isn't it? You've got to, if you're going to go video, you've got to get it right. Otherwise, you could potentially car crash and kill your investment. But that is really interesting. And what I think I read recently, and I think the stat's been out for a while, but Cisco was predicting something like 80% of all internet traffic by 2022 to be video. So vast majority of traffic out there will be video by 2022. I mean, that's phenomenal. So I suppose end-to-end, that just brings us back around to those providers that haven't got video in their portfolios at the moment. They need to go UCaaS, but if they're not planning that now, they really do need to consider that very soon, don't they?
Yeah, I think every provider out there needs to look at what their strategy is over the next 5 years, both from a technology point of view, a growth point of view, and looking at strategically and going, okay, how are we going to grow in the future? What do we need to have in our portfolio? What are our customers going to be demanding? And how are we going to sell that to them better than the competition? There's still been a lack of marketing investment in this industry. We're starting to see more and more people pour money into it. But the channel is still not fully educated on the growth of cloud. I think we're starting to see grassroots of that changing, but there's still going to be a big education piece here. And providers are really, I think, at a crux point now where they've got to understand that it's time to move. If they don't start moving now, someone will come in and eat their lunch and take their customers away. I think we've been through a great period now of high competition, lots of competition, but lots of open fields to go and win business. I think it's going to become more and more hard in the future. So I think that there's got to be different ways of doing that. There's big competitors coming into all the markets, not just from the big US providers, but seeing more and more European providers grow and gain scale. You look at the likes of Enfon, Enreach, Destiny, all investing, all going into new markets, all looking at trying to build a pan-European provider there. So you've got the European providers growing very strongly, looking at new markets. We've got US providers coming into Europe who are coming in with big marketing funds, successful strategies and VC funding. You've also got disruption from people like Amazon, Microsoft, Google. And then you've got disruption from areas we might not have expected a few years ago. I think one of the things we are interested in looking at this year is when we redo our enterprise research is where are people buying what from? I think it's really interesting looking at the CRM point of view of if you're a Salesforce CRM, if you use Salesforce as a CRM, how does that impact your buying decision on other cloud applications? So understanding where those customers are coming from and where they're going to buy from in the future, I think is going to be key for some of these providers of helping them understand their portfolio as well and bringing the right products into that.
Yeah, that certainly is really interesting, isn't it? Around the vendors coming in from adjacent markets.
Yeah.
We've seen Salesforce recently, haven't we? Just almost launched their own contact center platform based on Amazon Connect, I think it was. Really disruptive. They've already got contact center providers within their community partner ecosystem, and they make that move. So it's, no one's really respecting the traditional supply chains.
No.
It's going to be interesting to see. So just to round this up then, Dom, thank you very much for chatting to me today. If someone's interested in your research, where can they go? How can they get hold of it?
Well, I'd say the first step is come along to our conference on the 5th of March. We're going to be presenting in more detail on what the enterprise is demanding and also presenting on what's the differences and what's the changes within the service provider industry as well, what the supply chain is changing, who's coming into that. And we've got a great lineup of speakers from across providers in North America and Europe and vendors and channel as well, talking around how the industry is changing, what they're doing, how they see the industry changing. It's a great opportunity to network with the rest of the industry as well. So I'd suggest anyone who's available to come along to that. And then we will be, they're available to buy from our website, the reports. If you want any information, please drop me an email. I'm happy to jump on a call, discuss through how we can help you strategize and grow for the future. I think there's a lot of help we can deliver to most service providers out there. So I look forward to speaking to them.
Perfect. So you can get a hold of Dom at cavellgroup.com.
Yeah.
And the event is cloudcomsummit.com.
At the CloudCom Summit, cloudcomsummit.com. Go to there. I know you'll be there, Rob, covering the event for us. So really look forward to seeing you there. And should be a great day out.
Great. Thanks, Dom. Have a good day.
So thanks very much.